And my challenge right now to my Republican colleagues is I ask you, come down to the floor of the Senate and tell me that I am wrong. Come down here and tell the American people that if this legislation, this disastrous tax bill passes, that you will not be coming back to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, nutrition, education, and other programs. Maybe I am wrong. And if Republicans come down here and they say, Bernie, you're wrong, we have no intention of cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, I will come here, Mr. President, and I will apologize.
It's Friday, December 1st, 2017. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. In today's show, I think Sean nailed it ahead of the show today. It's the end of the world as we know it. Republican tax scam is delayed but not dead. Yes, we are on the brink of significant changes to American society, folks. If the GOP gets this, not only will we see a huge redistribution of wealth, they'll also get legal status for fetuses and allow churches to become arms of conservative politicians. Rubio admits on the floor that once tax scam is passed, Republicans are coming for Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Net neutrality is scheduled to be destroyed on December 14th, thanks to former Verizon lawyer turned FCC chair Ajit Pai. Fight for the Future, Demand Progress, and Free Press Action Fund are calling for protests at Verizon stores around the country on December 7th. Go to VerizonProtest.com for an action near you. Former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn gets charged with making false statements, lying to the FBI. Does this mean that Flynn is now cooperating? Or does it mean that there's not so much to see here? I just can't wait to see what happens next. Don Blankenship, former CEO of Massey Energy and criminally responsible for the deaths of 29 miners at the explosion of the Upper Big Branch mine in West Virginia, is now, of course, running for U.S. Senate in that state. And guess who he's running against? You know, right-wing Democrat Joe Manchin. This should be great. Looks like Rexy, good old Rex Tillerson, a.k.a. Wayne Trucker, is out at the head of State Department. Bring in the deep state. This follows reports, of course, that Tillerson is doing an excellent job of gutting the State Department as more senior staffers leave or are forced out. Matt Lauer is out at NBC. You know, we all know the story now. More sexual assault and harassment that went unreported. And all Matt Lauer wants now is just $30 million to leave. And Maleficent pays a special visit to the White House to decorate for the holidays. Or was it the Ice Queen? Depends on the time of day, I guess. And the New York Times at the center of a major controversy surrounding their profile of a white nationalist and his wife. Sean and I go deep into the issues surrounding that one, both in the article and the controversy. And Turning Point USA, an AstroTurf's billionaire-backed right-wing organization, begins showing up on Pennsylvania college campuses. Kudos to some awesome reporting from a student journalist at IUP. And I wonder who's going to be going to this year's Turning Point USA Student Action Summit at the end of the semester. Gorka will be there. And Gorka is come to the student. Yeah. And it's
like
beer.
a Sean Connery.
What's that?
You sound like Sean Connery.
Yeah, I know. I'm too tired to do Gorka today. And it's beer holiday time, folks. Free Will have a tent at tomorrow's Percy tree lighting event. Saucony Creek wins big with their first Crowler event. And new beers are out from Pizza Boy as the holiday season gets underway. Remind everybody, tune in to The Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be there giving the weekly resistance report once again this week. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And if you missed the show, no problems. Go to thericksmithshow.com and click on the Free Speech TV icon in the sidebar. And, folks, as you know, the only thing that is appropriate to do as the world as we know it comes to a close is frickin' support Raging Chicken Press. I'm telling you, maybe we'll get into this in the show a little bit today, but Sean and I went dark on the where we're headed. As in our discussion before the show today, and I'm telling you, we're going to need to dig deep here to make sure that we've got the fight back, that we've got the institutions that we need to go full throttle in the fight back. And we need you to support Pull No Punches Progressive Media right here, homegrown in Pennsylvania. We need you to become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Right? It's not hard. Simply go to ragingchickenpress.org and look for the support and membership tab. Click Become a Member and you're on your way. Or just go to patreon.com/rcpress. There you have it. One step removed. Right? Just go right there to become a member. If you're not ready to become a member, no problem. You can make a one-time donation by clicking Donate. We also have our end-of-the-year membership special going on, right? We've had this going on for a while now, right? Chris Robay's book, Breaking the Spell, History of Anarchist Filmmakers, Videotape Guerrillas, and Digital Ninjas will be yours, right? If you become a member at the $10 a month level. Right, it's an awesome book. You can listen to our interview, my interview I did with Chris Robay a few weeks back. It's a phenomenal book, and it's also got a Pennsylvania angle on it too as well, which is awesome. But I'll tell you now, through the end of the year, not only will we send you Breaking the Spell, not only will we send you some cool Raging Chicken Press swag, but I will throw in a Raging Chicken Press Pull No Punches, T-shirt. It's our round logo. We'll throw the T-shirt and the book in if you become a member now for $10 a month. We're really going to need it, and I'm convinced that, again, it's all hands on deck. Last time at this year, we were saying the same thing because Donald Trump had just been elected president, and I can tell you this, we have got to double down right now like we've never before. So, I don't know. So what do you think, Sean? Could that underscore that point enough? I'm telling you, man. That's the space I'm in right now.
Yeah, it's definitely the end of it. We're like, I feel like we're nearing end times right now.
It is. I'm telling. I said
like,
this.
During the intro, I was like looking up some of the REM. It's great. Starts off with an earthquake. I guess it started off with last night's earthquake in the Philly area, and now it seems like it's just going to shit.
And now, yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you, man. I said this before as we were talking ahead of the show today, and I don't like saying these things out loud because they're, I grew up reading dystopian science fiction and things like this, right? So I tend to go to dark places, soon. I look for one of the ways when I'm, considering any kind of problem with I'm working like within our union or kind of organizing stuff, I tend to go to think in worst case scenarios, and what I was saying to you before we went on air today was, I have a certain different kind of perspective on, the kind of the lead up to, the rise of fascist societies, and whether we're talking Nazi Germany, we're talking about Italy or Spain or something like this, where you see all this stuff going on, and instead of mass mobilization and resistance, people just say, okay, I'm just going to try to protect my family. I'm just going to try to kind of weather this storm until it gets past me. And so everyone turns inward, and then it's too late. Right, I almost feel like that's the kind of place that we're in. I mean, you look at this tax bill that is being proposed right now, that is, as best I can tell, is going to be voted on today in the Senate, unless there's another delay, is going to decimate huge sectors of this economy, is going to kind of like force a destruction of the safety net. And then you couple that with like the removal of net neutrality, the Koch brothers making major bids on media networks. I mean, you start putting this stuff together, and it doesn't take too many steps forward to realize that all the pieces are in place to go in very, very bad directions.
You look at it like this. Just looking down our list for today, we put together Roy Moore is surging in the polls. Don Blankenship, former owner of Massey Energy, thinks he could become a U.S. senator. Rex Tillerson being forced out, and Mike Pompeo going in as Secretary of State. I mean, you put all this stuff together, especially if you look at Trump's cabinet. I mean, this is the literal definition of a junta.
Yeah.
This is not
good.
Is a junta. Where all these military people are in high powers of the cabinet and they're making decisions.
I don't know, man.
I mean, it seems like there's never really been a precedent for this much, all these top military officials getting positions within cabinets. But no, it's not like we're going in a great place. I mean, just start off with the tax stuff.
Yeah.
Not even some of the things we have on the list, but force states to cut stuff like public education, public higher education, Medicare and healthcare expenses. It's going to force. It's going to get rid of student loan protections. That it is bringing on a world of pain, a world of hurt for a lot of people.
Yeah, let's use the student loan thing for a second as a perfect example of this. We did that and the graduate student stuff, right? For the being able to write off student loans, right? What's interesting about that, once you reach a certain income level, right? I forget what it is. I don't know if it's $150,000 a year or $100,000 a year. I don't know what that cutoff is. But once you're basically, fairly well off, right? You no longer get to write that off. Right. So the idea is that, if you've got the money to pay them back, you're gonna pay them back. You're not going to get the tax break. So that is a perfect example of a current tax break, something that can be written off that is for the middle class and the lower class who have gone through college. Right. And that will be eliminated. Then you're talking about, we talked about this last 2 weeks ago, I guess, when they were still this stuff was still in the House. Is that for graduate students? If you're a graduate student and you get a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, you're probably getting about maybe $10,000 to $15,000 a year, right? In some cases, a little bit more, but right in there is kind of what they'll pay you, right, as a stipend in exchange for teaching or doing research, right? So you're getting paid that, let's say $15,000, right? And then you struggled to get by, but at least you're not incurring a whole lot of debt. Why? Well, because as part of that stipend, also you get a tuition waiver. So you're not paying tuition, you're not paying out loans, you're actually working your way through that program, right? That's what I did. That's a lot of my friends had done. So you do that, and then at the end of the year, when you're paying taxes on $15,000. What this tax bill will do will basically say, nope. You're going to pay taxes, yes, on the $15,000, but also as if you received the tuition dollars, right, as income. So Syracuse University, where I went to grad school, for example, right now, tuition is upwards of, it's over $50,000 a year, right? So let's just say $50,000 a year. So not only am I paying taxes on $15,000, I'm paying taxes also on $50,000 for the year. So $65,000 is my quote-unquote income. And at the end of the year, I'm paying taxes at that rate, right? And so guess what's going to happen? That money is not in my bank account. I'm going to have to pay more because I have not contributed enough taxes from my salary. Or if it does get directly taken out of my paycheck, my actual take-home pay is going to be radically reduced. So you're basically forcing a huge sector of the kind of higher education into poverty. And we could go right down the list, right? The highest increases percentage of taxes are for those individuals who make less than $10,000 a year. I mean, Sean, it's disgusting.
Yeah, this is... This seems like an a la carte tax bill with no rhyme or reason to it.
Oh, no, there's a rhyme or reason.
Oh, no, there's a rhyme or reason to it. It's for the rich to get richer. I mean, it's for your Koch brothers and stuff like that. But, I mean, other things are baking into this. Legal statuses to fetuses.
Yeah. When I saw that, I missed that the first time round, right? Because I was trying to get my head around what the impact was going to be on the tax stuff. And to see that the bill is packed with all these other giveaways to other aspects. Again, you're going to give a tax bill that is going to give legal status to fetuses. right? And so you're basically talking about giving personhood to fetuses as part of a tax bill, right, which is going to radically change kind of abortion protections in this country.
Lifts the ban on political activism by churches.
Right. Churches, I mean, everybody knows this. If you're a church and you receive tax-exempt status, you can't go on your pulpit every week and advocate for particular political candidates, just like you can't if you're a nonprofit corporation, right? But no, not no more. And Trump was out there touting this as like, this is the way it should be, right? So now I could, instead of on Sunday having to kind of send out a deacon or someone else to kind of like talk about like the sanctity of life, now you can have the freaking priest right up there, or the minister or whatever, stand up there and argue directly against political candidates that kind of meet their criteria. And guess who controls the vast amount of funds? It's the right wing.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now you're producing a religious army, right, to aid conservative politicians in their war on the rest of us.
Yeah.
Told you I go dark, man. But
I mean, there's just some of this another thing, I guess. Some of the hardest hit states are going to be your blue states that pay the most in federal taxes,
right,
and also use a lot of tax dollars. So, like New York and California will be hit hard by this bill. I mean, it is just like retribution against anyone and everyone possible. Well,
here's the thing that again, I was looking into that part on the removing the tax, the tax write-off for state taxes, and I'd been focused up until recently on the kind of, okay, it's going to actually hurt individuals in that state who are not going to be able to write that off, right? So it's going to increase their tax burden. So I was thinking about that, just in terms of the impact on individuals. But then I thought, wait a minute, take this one step further, right? And I was reading around some more. So basically what this does is this actually puts a limit on the ability of states realistically to actually levy taxes for different kinds of programs. Take, for example, New York State, who just kind of announced the kind of a very limited free college tuition model, right, which is in part going to be supported by state revenue. Well, now if I've got a whole state, if I'm finding that now every citizens in my state just basically experience a de facto tax increase, right, due to this new federal legislation, right, their tax bill is going to go up. You create an environment where it's that much more difficult to advocate for levying taxes in order to do things for the whole. Because people are going to already see, wait, I'm getting taxed even more now, and now you want me to pay more? Now you're going to get a pushback. And I cannot help but see that as part of the strategy.
Yeah, and then after this, after the tax bill, after that's done, Republicans are looking to go after Social Security and Medicare. Yeah, so let's
as we kind of get into this, I want to let's talk about the impacts in here. I can't think of anybody better to actually lay this out than Sherrod Brown. I mean, he was basically livid yesterday as this debate was going through. I want to play you the sound of Sherrod Brown, and this is basically how he lays out what the impact of this bill is going to be. Here you go.
This myth that if you give a company a big tax cut, then you know what they're going to do? They're going to hand it out to their employees. They're going to get a $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a year raise. Well, that doesn't happen. That's never happened. If my friends here want to give a tax cut to the middle class, why don't we give a tax cut to the middle class? Why don't we directly put the money there? I know the president said he's a big loser on this bill personally. It will cost him zillions of dollars, whatever he said. We also know that's not even close to true. But if we want to do this right, if we really care about the middle class, I asked my colleagues, let's give a tax break to the middle class. Think about it. They're not even hiding what they're doing here. These cuts go to corporate stockholders. They don't go to raise wages. They go to executive compensation. They don't go to create jobs. They go to stock buybacks. They don't go to middle class Ohioans or middle class Oregonians or Texans or Pennsylvanians or Alaskans. We know what will happen. And then you know what will happen then, as Senator Rubio said, after we pass this bill, the president signs into law, the budget deficit explodes again. You know what will happen? Right. Senator White knows this. He'll come back, and you guys will all say, we got this budget deficit. We're going to have to raise the Social Security retirement age. And you know what that means to a barber in Garfield Heights? You know what it means to a construction worker in Warren, Ohio? Or you know what it means to somebody that's working in manufacturing in Mansfield, Ohio? They can't work till they're 70, but we can all work till we're 70 if the voters allow us, because we got these jobs. Well, a lot of our constituents can't, and if that's the scenario, and that's almost inevitable, we do this bill, we pass this bill, big tax cuts for the wealthiest people in this country. We drive a hole in the budget deficit. We come back and make the middle class and working families pay to fill that hole. That's irresponsible. That's morally reprehensible, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Leader, Mr.
So there it is, right? And I think that is exactly the plan, right? And I think that anybody who wants to say anything other than that is just they've got their head in the sand. I don't know, man. Happy stuff, right?
Yep, happy. It's a happy podcast.
well, this is what we got at the top, right? So as part of the the intro, I had that piece by Bernie Sanders, which is basically saying, "Hey, look, we know the plan." Basically, what Sherrod Brown said. This is the way this has worked. This has been the playbook, right? Which drives me insane that we can't see this yet. Right? That this is just not common sense. That we allow these people to kind of continue to get away with this crap. Right? That's the plan. The plan is to kind of create a situation in which you're passing something that is going to create massive deficits. Then you wait a little bit, and then you raise your hands in the air and you go, oh my God, what's going to happen? The sky's falling. We have no money. What are we going to do? We're going to have to cut programs. When things are bad, you've got to tighten your belt. That's the logic that they do every freaking single time. Right? And there it is, Sherrod Brown laying it all out.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the plan here in Pennsylvania. I mean, you had there was a video of Bernie Sanders going after Pat Toomey on the Senate floor last night about this, and Senator Toomey basically said, "No, yeah, everyone who's receiving it now will be fine."
Right. Let's play that. This is a perfect follow up, right? So then here you've got this is Bernie Sanders, right? It's Bernie Sanders kind of talking about the bill, kind of advocating against the bill, or I guess yes, it's his time there, and Pat Toomey is up there kind of responding to some questions, okay? And Pat Toomey, Bernie Sanders has basically kind of laid out kind of a version of what Sherrod Brown just did, right? And said that what you're going to do next is that you're going to come after, the plan is that you're going to come after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid once this tax bill is through. Okay, so this is Pat Toomey's going to start off, and this is going to be his response to Sanders' claim there. And we're going to play it through a little bit so you can hear where Sanders identifies exactly the rhetorical move that is being made, that the kind of the smoke and mirrors game that Republicans are playing so that they can exact exactly this plan. So here's the exchange.
So I have to disappoint the senator from Vermont by informing him that there is no secret plan to do any of the above. We are not in some process to spring something. If we wanted to make these changes in Medicare and Medicaid, this would be the vehicle because we have reconciliation protection to do it.
Let me just be very clear. I'm happy to hear this. Do I have your word now that you, as a senator, I know you can't speak for everybody, that you, as a senator, after this bill is passed, and I suspect it will be, you will not support any cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? Do I have that word from you?
I am not going to support any cuts to people who are on the program and need those benefits.
There it is.
But I want this program to survive. I'm going to acknowledge that we need this program for the next generation, too.
He just let the cat out of the box, or whatever the phrase is. He just told you he's going to cut Social Security. That's it, my friends. He will not cut it, what he just said, he will not cut it for people who are on Social Security right now. I hear that. But if you are 50 years of age or you are 55 years of age, they just told you, my friend from Pennsylvania just told you, they may go forward to raise the retirement age, they may cut your cost of living adjustment. That is what he just said.
There it is, right? In real time, folks, in real time. I don't know, man. Crazy stuff, Sean.
Yeah. What's next on the list?
Oh, sorry, we're boring you with tax discussion. I apologize for that. This is part of the problem, I might as well just give up right now, Sean. What do you think?
Yeah, well, let's just pack it in.
We just end this podcast right now because, what the hell? It's really, what's the point?
What's next on this? Net neutrality?
Sure, why not? Let's take that. Yeah, let's get rid of net neutrality. That's good. All right, next. What do we got next? Don Blankenship. Yeah, criminal. Killed coal miners. Yeah, let's put him in the Senate. What's next? Roy Moore. Right?
Roy
Fucking
Moore.
child molester. Right? Surgeon in the polls. Looks like he's going to be in the Senate. What's next? I mean, literally.
It's like, man, it's like it just feels like everything just like fell apart within the past like week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was on doing the resistance report on the Rick Smith show this week, and one of the things that I said there, if people tune in tomorrow night, you'll hear me talking about it, is that I have a real concern at this point that people have been going 24/7 trying to stop the insanity. They're pulled in so many kind of different directions and stuff, and then you just had a holiday, and now you've got Christmas season, Hanukkah season, the whole holiday season coming up, and I keep on hearing that people are really exhausted, and I think that's been part of it. That's been part of the game, and seriously, I mean, I was kind of being a little cynical there and kind of a little pessimistic and stuff, but seriously, if you look at the net neutrality vote. That's coming up on the 14th that Ajit Pai is basically put on the table. That will it'll be the huge give back to Verizon, to Comcast, yeah, and the other kind of big internet providers, and then it's basically going to put, they're basically going to say, look, those people with the money, right, or who are associated with their particular networks, are going to get. Usable internets, right, and high speed. The rest of us are going to be left to foster, right? So unless a podcast like this or like a page like Raging Chicken, unless we want to radically increase the amount of money that we're going to pay for access, and we don't offend our cable providers or our internet providers, rather our ISPs, then we can actually get good speed. However, if we say anything that is going to trouble them, right, or if we're going after Verizon as kind of ethical practices or looking at Comcast as the behemoth that it is, then they could, at their whim, shut us down.
I mean, this is like literally like reestablishing Bell Telephone. Like this is,
yeah.
I mean, we are.
Except Bell Telephone. Here's the big difference in my mind, right? With the telephone monopolies, right? You're talking about the focus there was primarily on control and cost, right? Is that they could do whatever they want with this. What the internet has been. Right? It's not just about, okay, can I also get access to this thing? That's about the cost of it. That is part of it, but it influences our ability to kind of communicate in the way that we've been establishing, right? It actually directly impinges upon the kind of 21st century democratic process. Right? This is so much bigger than just whether or not I can actually get up and email my friends or I can stream Netflix. Right? This has everything to do with the fact that those folks...
the way we
who can pay will determine the news, the culture, and what gets reported on and what does not. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So again, I have the day of action for that will be December 7th, and I look forward to that because it's people will be out at Verizon stores around the country. You can go to kind of VerizonProtest.com, look for a location near you, and show up. I know that's hard. The other thing I should say too as well, Bernie Sanders is going to be in Reading on Sunday. Yes. He's going to be out there with, in part, some of the Indivisible Burks folks, and I'm actually going to try to get out there. Right, I got a kind of invite to get out there to kind of check it out. He's going to be there speaking against his tax bill. So, if you are in the kind of Berks County area and the Reading area, you might want to consider getting out there on Sunday. You can check out the stuff on Facebook. So, got a lot of here. But and Sean, this stuff on this Don Blankenship stuff is just.
It's just
it's a whole different order, right? I mean, you got a guy who's basically responsible of killing minors.
29
minors, and now he's going to run for Senate. I mean, what's his deal?
I guess he has an axe to grind with Joe Manchin. I don't know. He feels entitled to that seat because he has money.
Yeah, maybe he wants payback. I guess that.
I mean, Joe Manchin's pretty friendly when it comes to the coal industry.
Yep. Not friendly enough, apparently.
Yeah. But it was when Joe Manchin was governor. It was an independent, state-funded investigatory body that went after Blankenship and placed the responsibility of that mine collapse all on him. But oh well.
Oh well, indeed. Oh,
and then Roy Moore.
And Roy Moore, yeah. So again, here we are. How many more women need to come forward, right? I mean, like the stories that have come out about this guy, like since we first touched upon it, like he had to be watched in the mall. He couldn't be near cheerleaders at the football games. I mean, like all this crazy shit as a grown adult, and how I don't know. How does it go on for 30 years like that, unchecked? When everyone in around his life, right, within like the outer perimeter of his life, the people who had to watch him at the mall, the people who had to why didn't these people step up and say something? Like, I mean, it's pretty like, I don't know. I mean, how could it get to this point where he's about to become a United States Senator when people have known this track record for like 30 years now, 20 years? Yeah. Great point. I mean, well, we talked a little bit about this. It's like,
I mean, people have known this for like 30 years now, 20 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like, it was like, yeah, don't let your kid around him, He's only the district attorney of the fucking county.
And this is where, like, look, he is obviously a horrible person.
He's a predator.
He is obviously, a criminal. He is, everything about that. But this is the same problem, and I've mentioned a version of this before, too. This has always been like the same issue I have with organizations like the Catholic Church, right? You got individual, horrible, like, priests, like, who abuse children. And those people are despicable and disgusting. But then you've got other priests and other people in that organization, right, that didn't say anything for a generation or two. More than that, I'm sure. Right? I fault that structure as much, and those people who said nothing. And so here you go, right down here in Alabama, you've got, you got Roy Moore, you got, people knew all this stuff and say, oh yeah, we all knew. What the? Right? And you cannot tell me that the Republican Party of Alabama or the Republican Party overall didn't know this.
Or some local Republican Party or something.
Exactly. And this is what's disgusting. This is where the whole crap needs to come tumbling down. This is why when we sit there, we see Matt Lauer go down, we see Al Franken go down. Like, for this kind of behavior, there's got to be a cleaning of house. There's no doubt about it. This is the time of the reckoning, in many ways, that has to come forward. And the fact that Roy Moore is now surging in the polls and may actually win that seat tells you how despicable Republican Party politics are right now.
And really, like, there's been some, like, despicable people elected to that body, right? I mean, we were talking about this beforehand.
Yep.
Like, for generations, outright racist and bigots. I don't think there's ever been, like, a child rapist there. Could have been, but, there's an out-and-out child rapist about to get elected to, like, that office. And it's like, if McConnell really wanted to stop this, they could have found someone to run a write-in campaign to prevent him from becoming governor.
Right.
And split that ticket.
Yep.
Instead, they kind of just put their hands up in the air and they walked away and said, yeah, we don't support him, but that's it.
Well, because they know. What they know is this, right? And people because they know if he does that, McConnell went and got behind and kind of like ran another candidate, got behind one of them. They're going to split the vote, right? And then a Democrat is going to win the election. Right, and they want to doesn't matter what the consequences are. They want to hold power of the Senate, and that's all that matters to them. That's it. And there's the big difference, right, between at least some in the Democratic Party and what we see in the Republican Party politics. Right, at least you've got Nancy Pelosi out there calling for the resignation of Conyers, right, after the revelations have come out about him and his persistent behavior. Right, at the very least.
That's also something people knew about for decades.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Yet at the same time, They protected that. They protected that situation.
Okay, so a journalist tweeted out, or a journalist put out, yeah, he had a reputation. You don't get in an elevator with him by yourself. I mean, I don't fault the journalist for not reporting on that because you're just going off of previous you can't just say, yeah, this guy's a sexual abuser without saying that publicly.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, but yeah, it was known for decades. This guy, you don't get in the elevator with him by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
and who are the people that knew about it?
PA State Capitol.
Yeah, it happened. I'm sure this happens. You talked about this before on this show, right? About about the climate for women journalists, for the climate or for women politicians in the Pennsylvania State Capitol, and this is not limited. I guarantee it, not just to Pennsylvania. This is happening in every state capital around the country. It's happening in every institution around the country.
So I got to bring up something real quick since we're talking about this issue about women and complaining about sexual assault. Oh man, you'll love this one. A consultant for the state party, right? Female
Democratic
consultant.
State Party,
Pennsylvania Democrats. She tells, she goes, "WTF? We must stop what some think is inappropriate versus criminal. Men will soon stop even talking to females." This is what she's posting on her Facebook account, right? There's she said, this is one of this works for Marcel Groen directly. She's not a big fan of women generally. She's pretty tired of this whole #MeToo movement. And, basically women are crying boo-hoo and stuff like that. This is a female consultant, working in line with Marcel Groen, the Pennsylvania Democratic Party chairman.
That's sick, man.
Somehow she has a job.
That's sick. That's sick. I had a version of a discussion like this with some students yesterday, and this is the kind of stuff that throws me for a loop. I'm saying, it's like.
So do you want to know what Marcel's defense? Basically, he's like, yeah, but we're a big tent party, and we can't Yeah, basically, we're a big tent party.
So but here's the difference, right? It's here
you go. This is what.
Let's say you're a big tent party. Let's just say that. Okay, that's fine. But what about you as the individual, right? So say that you can't control what everybody says. Well, you're talking about a consultant, which you're freaking paying, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, if you're a big tent party, then you shouldn't have any problem arguing against those people in your tent, right, that you disagree with. But instead, you do this kind of half-assed defense.
This is what he said. It's not the line of the party. There are lots of people who express views that are not mainstream of the party, but we need to permit people to speak as long as they don't cross the party line. But as long as they don't cross the line.
And what is that line? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Look, I'm not arguing that we start going around policing what people say. I'm arguing, right, that when people say things that are freaking messed up, right, or work against, right, justice, equality, freedom, democracy, all these kind of things, then you call them out. They still have the right to speak. Right? But freedom of speech does not mean you get to say whatever the hell you want and then it just goes off into the ether. No, it means you can say what you want, but all other people get to respond to that. Right? That's what freedom of speech is. That's why it was protected in the Constitution, because people needed to argue about these stuff. So it's not like, look, she's going to say whatever the hell she's going to say, right? But this guy should be responding to it. Or he's basically implicitly aligning himself with that position. That's the way I look at it. So there you go. And it's and it's part of the same garbage. Anyways, we'll see. Yeah, it's dark days, man. The turkey's worn off.
But you know what?
Huh?
At least At least
there
are wonderful Christmas decorations being put up all over the place, including
yes,
the White House.
It's great. It's great. I mean, again, this was the gift that keeps on giving, Sean. It's by day or by night. You've got a different kind of like evil fortress feel to the White House now, which is great. Right? When the lights are dimmed, it looks like definitely this is Maleficent's work. Right? But when the lights are on, it kind of looks like, I don't know, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, Ice Queen kind of thing, right? So, by day or by night, it's crazy. I don't know if people saw this, but if people didn't see, I mean, you saw the pictures, right?
Yes.
It's awesome. It's just awesome.
It looks like you're like walking into like some Nordic or like pagan ritual.
Yeah.
Like
if you look at, I'm telling you, look at scenes from Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Like sticks.
Just these sticks.
In a planner. Tons of planners with a bunch of sticks.
Yep, with like at the end of it, right? There's like, the Christmas tree at the end of this row, right? Of these white sticks kind of sticking up in there, which you find out, right, is actually an illusion just to draw you in that will suck your soul once you get there. That's what it looks like. And the pictures that came out of like what it looks like at nighttime, right? It actually like projects like dark clouds on the ceiling and stuff like that, basically because of the shadows. I mean, it's crazy. So, so that's fun.
And another good thing about Christmas, Black and LGBT reporters have been left out of the White House Christmas guest list for the first time in 20 years.
Of course they have. Jesus. No kidding. I didn't miss that. Oh, my God. Oh, well, at least, Christmas spirit, even if it's
asking too many hard questions in the newsroom.
Yeah. Yeah, especially there's that one woman. I don't know her name. You know, the one she's like sits kind of like in the middle of the in the press room.
Yeah.
I forget the African American woman, which she's like the one they always. There's like some of the best memes of her whatsoever. Kind of like responding, like facial expressions, responding to shit that is like being said by Trump or being said by
April Ryan.
Yeah, who is it?
April Ryan.
Yes. She's awesome. She's having none of it, right? She's like right from the get-go. And she's like, what? So I guess she's...
said, I don't think they like me. For whatever reason, they have disdain for me.
Yeah. So she's off that list?
Yeah. I guess that's a good list to be off of. Be taken off the list.
Yeah, I would say so. Say so. All right, crazy. All right, well, I guess it's time for a break, Sean, because again, we've gone dark again, and so here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about something happy like neo-Nazis and white nationalists in the New York Times and the controversy and the right wing taking over college campuses. Yep, that's right. We got it all right here, folks. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor.
On Harrisburg.
What's that?
March on Harrisburg session we could talk about.
That'll be our happy part. We'll talk about the March on Harrisburg because March on Harrisburg session was awesome, and kind of again pointing to the kind of resistance we need, not the hashtag resistance that we kind of see that welcomes everyone from George Bush to Ivanka Trump, but the kind of resistance. Yeah. So, anyways, listen, I want to remind everybody. Listen, I know that this is kind of like one of the moody sessions, but. This is just stealing my resolve to have to, again, go full throttle when it comes next year. This is going to get messy next year when the election season fully kicks in for the race for governor. We actually need to make sure that we can be there to hold these people accountable and to cover the movements, to cover the kind of resistance we see in the street and organizations. So please become a member of Raging Chicken Press. Go to ragingchickenpress.org or go to patreon.com/rcpress and become a member. If you become a member at the $10 a month level, we'll send you an awesome book, Breaking the Spell, and we'll send you a Raging Chicken Press t-shirt too as well. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We will be back right after this.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1912. That was the day the Anaconda Copper Company instituted its rustling card system at its mines in Butte, Montana. The company used the rustling cards in two ways. First, as a work permit, and then as a way to keep track of miners. A miner looking for work would first have to apply for a card. Miners had to present information about citizenship status, English literacy skills, work history, and 2 years of employer references. Once the card was approved, the miners would then be allowed to apply for work. The Butte Miners Union charged that it was the company's way of blacklisting those who had quit, been fired, or known as union militants. By 1917, the Metal Mine Workers Union and the IWW added that the company was looking to nip agitation in the bud. They alleged employers were holding on to cards or denying them altogether for no reason. According to historian Paul Brissenden, both unions maintained the company was looking to, quote, punish those who were at one time active in the socialist administration of Butte Mayor Louis J. Duncan, to prevent the Socialist Party from again securing a foothold in Butte, to strengthen the hands of the more conservative unions, and to curb the industrial unionism of the IWW and Metal Mine Workers Union. The company asserted its right to keep out its enemies out of the mines, alleging they presented a danger to mine safety. But the unions shot back, stating the blacklist meant the hiring of untrained, inexperienced workers who presented the real danger. Brissenden notes that many union radicals continued to work in the mines despite the card system. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. And after our happy beginning for today, we'll just continue the road downwards into the spiral, into the abyss. No, Sean, it was funny. We had this back and forth earlier this week about this issue. I don't know if people caught it, but I guess this past weekend, the New York Times ran a story that was profiling basically this white nationalist. That kind of like blew up into this big controversy. There was tons of criticism, both of the journalist and of the newspaper, for that matter, for running this profile. It's kind of an interesting, raises a lot of questions about how we kind of approach this stuff. So, what was your take on it, Sean? Because you're the one who originally sent it to me.
So, I actually didn't read it when I sent it to you. I was just, reading it off the headline.
That's great.
But, no, I actually took time to read it. Read through most of it. I thought it was, a really, I thought it was, a straightforward written article. I just had a couple problems with the passages in it. Mm-hmm. Basically, trying to make them look like... I mean, my thing is it's almost like they gave them, a little bit of, a platform with the profile. But, one of the really things I had a problem with was when they were talking about Heather Heyer and how they just characterized them as left-wing activists. Mm-hmm. When I think that really sort of legitimizes the activism coming from the right wing or the far right, the white nationalist groups on that. It's one of the biggest issues I have with the article.
So how did
you're talking about Charlottesville?
Mm-hmm.
So,
how did
there's
you
a couple of things they got called out for.
Well, tell me, how did you see that as legitimizing it there?
Or it kind of sets up a conflict. This is a left wing. When you see left wing or right wing, you don't think of you think of extremism and stuff like that. So the extremists are responding to extremists, and one got killed. That type of
kind of false equivalency kind of stuff.
Yeah, two extremist groups ideologically met up, and one got killed because someone ran the car over them. When really it's more the left wing is more like a rooted in nonviolent protest. But I guess that was one of the things that really got me off. I thought it was pretty funny how they set up, talking about the beginning, how one of the biggest things they're worried about right now is that anti-fascists were going to bash their wedding ceremony.
Bash their wedding, right? Exactly. Right, exactly. Is that, I thought what was interesting for me is that after you sent it to me and you said, kind of made mention that, this stuff is blowing up on Twitter and kind of on the net. So I started kind of looking at some of the stuff. So, well, let me just read the article. And I actually came away with I didn't have the same kind of outrage that a lot of the arguments did that were coming from the left. What I saw, for a lot of the outrage I saw was that, one, we should not be, the New York Times or any legitimate newspaper should not be doing a profile of these kind of white nationalists in a way that describes them in any way that's kind of normal. Right.
He has a cat. He likes Seinfeld. He likes to go to the local supermarket.
That he's polite, right?
His tattoos are set up over a TV show that he likes.
He's got a piece of cherry pie because he likes Twin Peaks, right? Yeah, on his, on his arm, and I understand that, right? I understand at least abstractly when we're talking about we don't want to normalize these people in any way, right? We don't want to look at them and kind of say this is okay, right? Now, I get it. However, when I read it, the fact that the profile was so banal, right? The kind of interview with this guy, he wasn't this screaming, kind of using every, every possible insult and kind of violent language toward minorities and things like this, kind of like in an overt way. The fact that he wasn't doing that, yet at the same time, clearly he's a racist. Clearly he's he's got the Nazi books. He's got Mein Kampf on his shelf. He's got all this horrible stuff. Yet the way that he's conducting himself does not mirror that, except, the journalist does say, unless you start looking at his social media accounts, then that's a little bit different. Then you can see some of the more extremist views being said kind of more directly. Well, I came away from that as man, I hope people are horrified by this. Because what this shows you is that this white nationalism, not just racism, but this extremist white nationalism is in your neighborhood, right? This is not the picture I think that most Americans have when they think about white nationalists, right? Are those folks that are,
the toothless hick with the
toothless hick
flag
on the one hand, or the skinhead, the skinhead punk guy who's out there kind of stuff with the swastika tattoos all over the place. That's not it, folks.
No, it's your middle-class suburban white Americans that are getting involved in this movement.
Exactly. And the problem again, when my reaction to this is maybe this will be the kind of will shake people up that this is kind of proceeding. Now, I read some really excellent criticisms of the article that were basically saying the idea that racism is everywhere, and it's even the person next door is, this is the state for African Americans or for Latinos and minorities in this country. This is the normal state of being, right? The idea that racism has always been down the street, right? So it is not a surprise. It should not be a surprise to anybody that here it is. Having said that, right? The distinction here that I saw is that the fact that he's an overt white nationalist, an overt racist down the street, and advocating, organizing around those words, around those terms, around that ideology, right? He's part of an organization that is actually reaching out and trying to organize more people towards white nationalism, not just going out and say, I'm racist, he's racist too, but actually organizing. That is what is distinct for me. And that's why I think it remarks as a shift. So I'm 100% on board with everyone who says, look, that New York Times is pretending as if racism is new. I didn't read it as that. I read it as that this kind of white nationalist organizer that is just down the street, that is organizing in your town, on your college campus, that is what's new. Right. And the fact is, what the journalist, if you click on kind of journalist explanation after they got a lot of pushback, basically said, look, my editor said you're not ready to run this. You got to go find out why he turned, because he used to be in a punk rock band. He was more on the left, right? His wife was same way, right? She kind of came out kind of more from the kind of liberal left and stuff, and they turned, right? They turned into not just became more conservative, but became white nationalists. right? That is so deeply problematic to me, right? And I've been trying to articulate this to Sean for a while. I've been trying to say, like, some of the troubling aspects for me is, like, when people say you should not write about him in this way, you should not write about it in that kind of that banal way, right? Because it gives them a platform. I keep on hearing echoes of what we've heard on Raging Chicken for covering white nationalists. People said, no, we should just not pay attention to them, right? Because, like, in this case, it's like, well, no, we have to show these people who we're looking at. It's not just the crazy, like the ones that the pictures we have in our head, right? The reason why we need to be reporting on this stuff, that we need to be following their every new move, we need to be kind of tracking kind of, like, their strategy and tactics, is precisely because they're going after people like that guy profiled in the New York Times article. And, when we talked about that podcast, Sean, a few weeks back, right, when they were talking about Richard Spencer and I'm just forgetting the Evan, whatever his name is, when they were actually talking about how they planned out their action in Lancaster, right? And they were talking about the strategy and how they present themselves and how they talk and how they put themselves forward and how they, how they dress. All those things were going into devising and organizing the right, the extremist right. Right, overt racist kind of organization. And when you shift from, you have a culture that is just like teeming with racism, right? But it is relatively, at least overtly organized. Obviously, it's structurally organized, but less overtly organized. Like, we don't have, like, overtly racist parties. Now you've got them. That's shifted to the next level. Right? Now we're kind of even going more towards the extreme, which we can only expect, therefore, to increase violence, increase brutality, and increase the kind of divisions that we see. That was kind of my response.
Yeah. And one of the things that's like, the group this guy's with is the Traditional Workers Party, which is like an extremist white group. They lay it out real quickly what their views are, what their manifesto, their 25 points. A lot of things, but they're for things that populists would take up in these, like, Appalachian mining towns, or in these, like, forgotten, left behind, like, factory towns throughout the Rust Belt and stuff like this. Nationalizing key utilities. Healthcare is a human right. Environmental conservation. You dig into it, their reasonings might be a little bit more overtly racist. It's pretty racist, the reasonings behind these, but, going after payday lenders and stuff like that. I mean, like, they support the family, they're pro-life, they're conservative socially, but they have some pretty liberal, very liberal Marxist communist ways or socialist ways of thinking the way how the economy should be run. And it's like, these things are going after, they're using right-wing tropes and, conspiracies have been around for about 100 years now. But, I mean, they're hitting some of their, like, populism, and it's easy. It's a winning message.
Well, this is the thing, right? This is the traditional fascist movement. Right, is the idea. This is why, like, Nazis were National Socialists. Right, the idea that yes, we want to have, stuff for the nation, that we want to have things that are nationalized. We don't want to have this kind of, like, the payday lenders that are kind of ripping us off. Right, but the key move is, right, for these kind of fascist movements is that, yes, we should have those things and we should have these things, but for particular people, for white people. That's what's at the stake here, right? So that's the move of fascism right there, right, is the idea. And so I wouldn't even call it liberal. I would call this is the fascist playbook, right, is the idea is that we're going to kind of consolidate these resources for a particular group of people at the expense of others. We are going to blame and demonize the others as a way of kind of creating ourselves, of kind of creating this picture of the nation. And look, nationalism has been about that since the beginning. Nationalism has been about defining a people by who we're not, right? Who's excluded by this. what are our values and who doesn't belong in this, right? And that has been part of the American culture and American nationalism right from the get-go, right? Whether we're talking about the kind of extermination of American Indians, whether we're talking about slaves, whether we're talking about any kind of racial or ethnic minority in this country, we've had those arguments over and over again. It's built into the DNA of this country, and that's why this country is so susceptible to this stuff right now. That's why I thought when I saw that guy, I'm like, man, this is horrifying. Given everything else is going on right now, this is horrifying because you're talking about 2-3 steps away, right, from going down even darker paths that we're at now.
I mean, look at the One Identity Europa member that's out here. Lawyer, seen him around the bars sometimes. Looks like a clean-cut, short-haired, middle-class white guy or intellect. And, comes off as a normal-looking person. This is Evan McLaren. I've seen him before. I've met him before. I've served him. Mm-hmm. I've seen him out and about. I mean, he looks like a normal white dude from your suburbs. And here he's leading the National Policy Institute.
And so here's the thing.
But the one thing is also, you also have to recognize that the West Shore out here has been a highly racist and highly segregated community for years now.
Right.
I mean, they have sundown laws. They used to have sundown ordinances, off the book records or laws. If you're black on the West Shore, you were getting arrested for something that night after sundown. You better be staying on your side of the river.
Yep. I think I just kind of got my head around a little bit about kind of where my reaction is coming from, right? And why I'm kind of a little hesitant to go down the road of some of the wanting to kind of just heap all the blame on the New York Times or on this journalist. And I just was thinking about this. I was listening to the Majority Report yesterday, for example, and they were talking about, Joe Scarborough, right? And how Joe Scarborough is so kind of like, saying that Trump has to go and we cannot have this, blah, 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 blah. But he'd be kind of okay with a Mike Pence, right? And you see this happen too as well. This is where the Hillary Clinton campaign focused so much on, and what Democrats, Democratic leadership people, like in general, have continued to focus on, and that's how Trump is a bad man. And what they mean by bad man is that he's impolite, right? That he doesn't have the decorum that you're supposed to have, right? But Mike Pence would be okay because at least he's not so brutish, right? And that is crazy. And we see this even the way that this whole tax plan is playing out, is that the wanting to label it so desperately as the Trump tax plan, right? Even hashtag Trump tax scam, right? As opposed to Republican tax scam, right? The only dividing line between Donald Trump and the Republican Party, right, is their behavior patterns, right? I mean, and that's what drives me insane. It's like, so that if Mike Pence was there, and Mike Pence was kind of like talking to us like nicely and wasn't being so horrible in the way that he conducted himself, well, then we could work with him. And I guarantee you a bunch of the Democrats would peel off, right, and vote with the Republicans on this tax plan. And a bunch of other stuff too as well. Because it's the behavior thing that's on there. So the idea is that as long as everything feels okay and as kind of the decorum is upheld, then we're less liable to kind of go after the Republican Party. When in my mind, it's just the opposite. No. The fact that Evan McLaren could be in Pizza Boy and everyone's chatting with him, right? You're talking to him because he seems to be a perfectly, upstanding soul, right? Because he's not sitting there talking about white nationalism and preaching everything like that. Then he would kind of get pushed away, right? If somebody shows up with swastika tattoos all over them, they're going to have a more difficult social time, right? But what we need to get in the habit of is feeling uncomfortable and calling people out on this shit. And I don't give a shit if they're nice. Doesn't matter. If you are advocating for a plan that is going to decimate huge sections of this country, right, we're going to call you out on it. And you can be as nice as you want. And we are going to feel it. We are going to feel uncomfortable because people are going to well, you're being a little bit kind of like uppity. No. We call them out. We don't allow people to kind of take over just because they talk nice. And that's what concerns me about these kind of white nationalists right now. They're onto that game. They're onto it, Sean. I'm a little worked up today. I don't know.
You want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sean. I'm boring Sean today. Sean is not interested at all, what I got to say.
But no.
Sean just wants to get out of here today.
I was going to say, I've seen people sitting at the bar with the Odin cross tattooed up and down their arms, like your typical white Nazi, neo-Nazi tattoos, and it's it's a bit different. It puts the bartenders on edge because it's great. Now I got this guy at the bar, sitting at the bar where I know his tattoos are, and if I get caught looking at him, he's probably going to say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's going to be an awkward social situation.
Yep. So so it's a good thing that they we got the neo-Nazis going too as well. But hey, wait, that's not all. We also got some folks from the more traditional kind of right-wing extremist billionaires folks that are now invading our college campuses too, right? Take it away, Sean. Man, this is yours.
Oh man, yeah. So there's this group. You might have heard of them. It's called Turning Point USA. You familiar with them? Have you heard of them?
Yeah,
they're one of their projects is Professor Watch List.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you've drawn attention to this. I know I've kind of seen this. I've seen them come up and again. They are a known for those of us who are paying attention to this stuff. Turning Point they're in that list of billionaire fronted kind of organizations that especially they love going after higher education. Yeah,
and the person who runs this is Charlie Kirk. His dad is Robert Kirk Jr., who is the building manager for Trump Tower in New York City.
I didn't know that.
And so the organization started in 2012, 2013. It went from it had total contributions for the year at $78,890. 2014, that went up to $443,000, and then the following year that went up to $2.05 million.
Nice.
So in a range of 3 years, it grew from $78,000 to basically $2.1 million, and they have a payroll of over $500,000 as of 2015. So this is a large group that's filtering their way on college campuses.
Well financed.
There's one on IUP, Clarion, Temple, Penn State, a couple of the Penn State campuses, and then also there's one out in Bloomsburg, and one of the Wendy Lynn Lee, who's a professor at Bloomsburg University, has been a target of them, sort of how Colleen Clemens was a target of the alt-right for calling out toxic masculinity. Wendy Lynn Lee called them out for being white supremacists and racist. And no, it's like this AstroTurf Koch brother group that's on college campuses, and basically they're just going after. I mean, they're they're trolls pretty much, and they're starting to target student government elections.
There you go.
Yeah.
There was a great report by this guy. His name is Logan Hollinger, right? Hollinger. He's a student journalist at IUP, and did an excellent, I thought at least, an article. It's called "A New Political Player on IUP's Campus." Of course, there's going to be links in the show notes of this, and again, you see the same kind of thing we were just talking about in terms of the language and approach and rhetorical skills of these folks. So. Just here's a taste of kind of a little bit deep in the article. It's an interview in part with Brandon T. Uhalik, I guess. I'll say Uhalik. I hope that's close to it. He's an IUP communication media major at IUP, and IUP Turning Point USA chapter president. And he said his group has values. Quote, "Our values are economic freedom, free markets, and limited government," said Uhalik in a November 14th interview in IUP's Humanities and Social Sciences building. Quote, "We steer clear of social issues, but I can't speak for other chapters. This is what helps us cater to more people," unquote. When he arrived at IUP, Uhalik, now a junior, said he, quote, didn't even know there were college Republicans or college Democrats on campus, as they were very inactive, unquote. The IUP college Democrats and IUP college Republicans declined to respond. Right? Uhalik said he intended to start something fresh, something different. He attended last year's Student Action Summit, dun, dun, dun.
Which is an invite-only event.
Exactly. Turning Point USA's annual event in West Palm Beach, Florida, where he was recruited. Quote, one of the representatives reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in starting it up, he said. I'm in Greek life, so that kind of helped. I already had guys that wanted to become involved with it, so that gave us a good startup base. There you have it.
So
now,
you're frat bros.
That's right. Now, Turning Point USA's Political Action Summit, right? Student Action Summit will be taking place again this year, again West Palm Beach, right, from December 19th to 22nd. And here's the lineup, right? I won't go through all of them, but Ben Shapiro, right? Tomi Lahren, James O'Keefe, and Charlie Kirk, who you just talking about, right? Dinesh D'Souza, Donald Trump Jr., right? Brian Kilmeade, Governor Scott Walker, and Gorka, Sebastian Gorka, coming to tell you what to do, right? So this gives you the sense of the infrastructure, right? You got this Student Action Summit, students getting together. It's like, oh, students getting together. But if you look at the money that is involved to bring that collection of people there and then to have a recruitment structure to go back to college campuses, man, here we go.
And yeah, so and one of the best things about this, we started talking about they denied that they were involved with the alt-right. Before we get into that, here's a couple of things. So Turning Point USA out in Ohio State University campus, they set $6,000 aside for student campaigns, right? And the local field director, Alana Mastelangelo, I hope I get that right, she works for TP USA Heartland, regional director. So sort of like the Heartland Institute's involved with this,
okay,
which they are one of their funding sources.
They are the one of the main sources behind the climate denier industry, just for people to put it on their map.
So she said a huge part at what TP does that's really important is student government races. It's totally legal and everything because it's a student government campaign. It's not like Congress or the president or anything.
Yeah. So, $1,000 from national organizations goes a long way.
Yeah, we'll start buying elections, which, okay, your student government board people don't really have that much effect in life, but this does is A, it gets them in a powerful position that pads their resume, and B, it gets everyone else ready for this real world of conservative activism outside of college. Oh, this is how we buy elections on the school board. This is how we buy elections on the town council. Everything up from the municipal up through the state, regional, and national and federal governments.
Right. It gets them familiar with the pattern of how
they
of
even
how this stuff
have
works.
In Pennsylvania. They even have representation on 2 school districts out here.
Yep.
In Pennsylvania, one in Carlisle and the other one in Selinsgrove.
Yep. That's K through 12, folks. K through 12.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Now, I agree with what you say. Generally, kind of student government associations, it's more kind of like, you're involved with certain things, but there's kind of limited impact and things like this. And I think that has been the case on many campuses. However, right, I would also say is that some of that just has to do with the fact that students have not imagined the full possibility of politicizing a student government association. Right, usually what you hear from student government, about student governments, and I'm not just speaking like at my school. This is like generally every place I've ever taught. Right, there's a similar kind of dynamic. Right, there tend to be people who get involved with student government who maybe have political aspirations on their own. Right, a lot of them will get sometimes they'll get disparaged by other students for kind of because they want to cozy up to the administration so that they can, advance their own careers and things like this. You got to hear that stuff all the time. And most students aren't all that interested in what the student government does, right? It doesn't really speak for students. I mean, it does formally, but most students aren't kind of actively thinking about that. However, if you were able to recruit, right, an ideological core of people to that student government, right? Especially if you have outside funding to support those dynamics and then organizing, right? You could become an organized force on that campus, right? You could start passing resolutions, right? You could start passing things. Again, doesn't have the force of policy, doesn't have the force of law, but passing resolutions and start speaking out and kind of like, about what, I don't know, the need to hire more right-wing college faculty members, or, the need to kind of suppress feminists, or the need to X, Y, or Z, right? And that's what's going on, right? I mean, so be warned. We've talked about this before. This is in the kind of still in the early stages of this, but you can see where this is going.
And then, so, a couple of these people are involved locally. The one who was interviewed for this, Brendan Uhalik, their Facebook profiles are completely open to the public, which is awesome because, these people don't like to close off their social media stuff. So he has one of his profile pictures comes from Milo Yiannopoulos thing.
There you go.
Has him wearing a Trump shirt that says "Daddy" on it.
Yep.
And it says, "It's okay to be white."
Yep.
Take that for what it's worth.
Milo.
Okay.
Well, that's actually that's what Milo is selling those on his website, right?
So that might be a the Daddy shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. All right. So there's that there. Another one, the guy from Trevor Ahaus from Bloomsburg University has a picture of him and Seb Gorka together, from last year's TPUSA summit.
Yeah.
And then Brandon has a couple good things about male feminists. He says male feminists are the absolute worst, just creepy guys, virtue signaling in hopes of getting women's attention and or getting laid because they know they can't do it on their own. Quote, "Oh, honey, it's okay. I'll protect you from the big, bad, misogynistic men of the world. You can always come to me," end quote.
There you go.
And then they go into talking about the right wing use of cucking and beta males and stuff like this. So they try to claim that they're not alt-right, but they're definitely teetering on that alt-right, alt-white line and are starting to organize on college campuses here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, man, this guy's. I'm just looking at his Facebook profile right now. After you mentioned that, man, this is something. This is pretty much, I would say, required reading if you want to kind of a quick brush up on what is happening in terms of kind of right wing organizing, particularly this kind of alt right organizing. Definitely check out his page, and you'll kind of just read through the feed, and you'll get to see a little bit about. Where people are coming from. As you know, I mean, I've read Milo's book now. I've been reading a lot of this kind of alt-right stuff. When I have the stomach for it and I have a little bit of time, I'll kind of listen, spend some time on YouTube, kind of tracking some of this stuff, and bing, 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 all the bells are hit right here. And of course, behind all that is that you have part of the strategy of Steve Bannon and Breitbart as a way of advocating for these particular kinds of ideas. So you've got a media landscape which completely supports this, and you've got a well-funded kind of shadow political organizational structure nationwide that can support this work.
And then also look at the groups that they are, or the people they're bringing there: Tomi Lahren, Seb Gorka, James O'Keefe. All these people from you say O'Keefe is from that conservative right wing activist crowd, okay, but Lahren and Gorka definitely are coming from the alt right. Yep.
I do have to say that the one thing I was happy to see at the the Student Action Summit as the list of speakers, we get the return of the mooch. Anthony Scaramucci, everybody. Anthony Scaramucci's going to be there, right? I would go just to see that guy.
Joe or Dennis Prager.
Yeah, but come on, the mooch, man.
Oh yeah,
the mooch. Anthony Scaramucci, who's basically who brought The Sopranos directly to the White House, man. That was
for a couple days.
It was a short-lived, but Raz used to say in Blade Runner, the light that burns twice as strong, right, burns twice as fast. So it was.
And you also see who's and it's also all the libertarian groups are sponsoring this thing. The Heritage Foundation, Reason, National School Choice Week, American Conservation Coalition, the Alliance, American Freedom, whatever, all this stuff.
Wow.
Zionists.
Oh, joy. Oh, joy, joy, joy. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Do we have one more thing on this for this segment? I can't remember.
Oh, March on Harrisburg.
March on Harrisburg. Yes. We want to end it on a positive note. So, March on Harrisburg was awesome this past week. Take it away, Sean.
Yeah, so I actually got like a text message from Mike the day before this action. Basically like, hey, we need you in the Capitol tomorrow this time, blah. Get there. They're all starting to meet up in the Capitol. It's them and a bunch of Brotherhood Maintenance Way and Employees Union, part of International Brotherhood Teamsters, an affiliation of the Teamsters. Basically, railway workers. It's someone like say working for Norfolk Southern or out in Amtrak and stuff like that. They had a action where they met up. Michael spoke for a couple minutes saying, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And then they all barged into Daryl Metcalf's office to hold a sit-in.
Cool, man. And it was like another
arrested.
I'm sorry, what?
And then within 10 minutes, they were all arrested. But basically going after Metcalf on his refusal to bring up gerrymandering reforms and also to ban lobbyists giving gifts to politicians.
Nice. Nice. So again, man, the March on Harrisburg is tearing it up.
Yeah, and we were the only media people there to record this stuff, so that was awesome.
Good, man. That's awesome. Kudos to those folks, man. I think that if you look at the kind of the policies that they're advocating for, kind of looking to take money out of politics, kind of reduce corruption in the state through actually sustained organizing, and moving. Again, the last time they had the March on Harrisburg came out of Philadelphia. Now this one came from Lancaster, and then now you have continued actions after their march. I'm sorry, I tend to do this. I tend to kind of bring together actions. So there were actions kind of several weeks ago when they kind of showed up in the Capitol as a march from Lancaster, but then they don't just go away. And this is what I think the kind of work that the March on Harrisburg is doing is so instrumental, because basically we're seeing then they come back and have additional actions, and not just kind of like, okay, we had our one big event and now we're just going to go back to kind of traditional letter writing or campaign. No. They're going to keep up the pressure and they're going to keep on the organizing. That's exactly what has got to happen. So, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Sean's tired. What's going on, man?
No, I'm just tired.
Just tired. All right, so okay, Sean, we'll go to the next segment so you can get out of here. I know you wanted to. All right, so when we come back, we're just going to kind of short segment. We'll kind of talk a little about some beer news, and maybe we have anything else fun to add in for the for your weekend ahead, as holiday season goes in full throttle. Maybe I'll talk a little bit. Well, I'll just save that. Anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. When we come back, we'll talk beer, folks. Let's go! This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Over the past 6 years, we've brought unapologetic, progressive, activist media to Pennsylvania and beyond. We've helped hold those in power accountable and shine a light on some amazing activist work. We've broken national stories and established a reputation as an aggressive, independent media site. As newsrooms close and traditional journalists lose their jobs, hard-hitting, investigative news suffers. If we care about our democracy, we have to find new, sustainable models of journalism. And frankly, no one's going to do it for us. After the Trump election, we dug in even deeper. Thanks to some longtime members, one-time donations, and a shift in other resources, we brought on more writers and started paying them. Now we're doubling down and want to expand our infrastructure and pay our writers even more. We need to invest in our media if we have a chance to resist the unprecedented assault on democracy, working families, women's rights, and our planet. History will remember the choices we make today. So take a minute to become a member of Raging Chicken Press. For as little as $5 a month, the price of a local craft beer or a cup of coffee, you will be supporting homegrown progressive journalists and media activists. Go to RagingChickenPress.org and click on the Support and Membership tab to become a member. Leave a one-time donation or learn about other ways that you can help. We don't have billionaire backers. Keeping progressive, activist media going strong depends on you. Thank you for all your help and support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back to Raging Chickens Out the Coop podcast. It's the last call. Oh, boy. Yeah, we're kind of settling in. And for me, it is the end of the semester, which means it is crunch time. I'm exhausted. All this stuff that we talked about today is only adds to my exhaustion at this point. But hey, I'm going to try to kind of keep the head up and kind of look forward to some of the holidays and some of the breaks that are coming up, spending time with my kids. So, Sean, we got anything kind of on tap happening out there in good old Pizza Boy?
Yeah, there's a few things. A bunch of new beers went on this week. That was really nice. A couple good IPAs went up there. One called Echo Puncher, which is a 6.5% IPA with all mosaic hops. It's really good. And then there is the That Good Chit. CHIT. It's a German chit malt, so it's a good IPA. It's another IPA.
What exactly is chit malt?
I don't know.
Man, you're the beer geek, man. I thought you would know.
Nope.
What is chit malt? That's the question for today, everybody. What is chit malt?
And then there is a variant of the Eternal Sunshine on that was made with tangerine.
Well, that's nice. Well, I have to say, Sean was in town for Thanksgiving and brought me some of the kind of Eternal Sunshine, and it is indeed Eternal Sunshine. That stuff was really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And then, those IPAs I got from you were really good.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. There's some really good stuff coming up. So I gave you what? I gave you the Love Letter to the 90s.
That was really nice, yes.
Right, and the Lord Business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Love Letter to the 90s is awesome. I love that one.
Yeah.
I'm actually a huge fan of the Lord Business, too, as well, in part because the label itself is worth it. It's awesome. But, yeah, and so the other one you got, I thought, that stuff was really good. But I gave you a Blue Farm, too, right?
Yes, I didn't have that. I think I'm going to sit on that for a little bit.
You sit on it for a little bit? That one is great. I love that one. I've gone, I went through one bottle of it, and then right after its release, and then we had actually shared it for Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving dinner had the Blue Farm. That was absolutely fantastic. And did you actually end up picking up some of the Ralphius? And
no, I did not.
Yeah, this have the two releases. Do you remember the name of the? I'm just forgetting. I'm spacing it. That's awful. I should have looked it up.
I did not.
There's
Ralphius.
Yeah, one is Ralphius and
Ella.
Yeah, Ella. Two really strong kind of beers that came out last week, and they're named after some of the dogs, the owners that are on. But those are out there too as well. I actually got to pick up some of those today. That was really good. So if you're anybody looking for something to do down Percy, PA, where Free Will is based. Has what the town claims is the longest continuous kind of tree lighting ceremony in the country, right? For whatever that's worth. But the tree lighting ceremony is tomorrow night, and actually Free Will is actually going to have an outdoor tent at that ceremony, so it should be kind of a good time. So if people are looking for something to do from 5 to 8, Free Will will be out there, kind of serving up its wares, which would be really cool. And I'll be there definitely. I've got some family coming in, and my dad and stepmom comes in every year for the for the tree lighting ceremony, just because chance to see my kids and everything like that. And my dad is a huge Christmas fan too as well, which is great. The other thing I think Saucony Creek had its first crawler release, right, of Thorndor on a pogo stick. It was New England IPA. And gave Sean one of those too as well. Kind of picked up some additional cans of it. I think they got a winner there. I thought it was great. And of course, when I opened it, I had especially the first one. It was like, man, it was like fresh can, like just poured that day. Actually had a little taste when I was at the bar too as well, kind of fresh off the tap. So good on Saucony Creek for that. So I look forward to some additional stuff. And from what they told me, what the bartender was telling me there is that they've had such a great response that they're going to be doing some more of that coming up in the future. So that's a cool thing.
Nice. Yeah, no, the Saucony Creek guys come into Pizza Boy sometimes. I've actually met the owner and a couple of other people from the brewers and all. What I thought was really awesome, well, it's not really awesome. My mom is starting to enjoy my IPAs.
Dum, dum, dum. Because your mom was just a strictly stout woman, right?
Yes. And so she had some Marin River over the weekend. And then she had some of that Thorndorn on a pogo stick. Mm-hmm. She liked it both, yeah.
See, Sean, if you want to keep your mom off your IPAs, you gotta have a different strategy. You gotta give her bad IPAs,
yeah,
that she will continue not to like. And then you could say, "Oh, this other, you definitely won't like this one." Then, so
yeah,
cool.
So.
Anyway, Sean, you got any plans for the weekend?
Working.
Just working.
Just
working.
Well, getting ready for the Eagles on Sunday night.
Eagles? Oh, they're still
Eagles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, are they doing well this year?
They're 10-1.
You getting ready starting now?
Yeah.
I bet you
all
are.
I got to look forward to besides working.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, folks, it's been another week, and I hope people kind of checked out. I don't know. I've heard just a couple things. I don't know if people listened to last week's special podcast, special release. I mean, Sean and I decided to take the week off from doing a live show, but I spent some time trying to do some sound work on it, and still the sound quality was not so great. But it was our first ever interview back in 2011 with Noam Chomsky, none other than Noam Chomsky. I think, Sean, I'd say would it be fair to say that we were a little bit floored by the fact that we scored an interview with Noam Chomsky?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I only wish, like, literally, we had been Raging Chicken was 4 months old. Noam Chomsky had come to Kutztown University. He came there as to speak for World Philosophy Day, and we got an email says anybody's looking for if of media contacts that would like possibly have interview or whatever like this. Here's their contact person or whatever. And at first I just kind of dismissed, I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's like, I would love to interview Noam Chomsky. That'd be awesome. But, who the hell am I? I'm just a, random professor. And I've got this little, startup independent media site. Like I'm going to score that. Not a chance. And then I said to myself, well, wait a minute. I'm not going to negotiate against myself here. So at the very least, why not just ask? What the hey, right? Give it actually a pitch. And this is why. I mean, Chomsky has, he's gone out of his way in the past to interview with independent media all over the country. So what the heck? And sure enough, man, within a day, they got back to me, said, sure, we'll set it up. So he stayed in Kutztown, and the next morning, we were not allowed to tell anybody where he was staying or anything like that. Next morning we went, we kind of had this little room to set up to interview him in. And, to be honest with you, we didn't have the equipment that we should have had in order to interview him. We were actually kind of running off a mic on the video camera, and the video camera was set back a little bit, and the room was kind of echoey. So I tried to gone back and re-edit some of the sound so at least you could pick it up. But at the very least, as a historical marker, I thought that was pretty remarkable. And we talked about Occupy, and we talked about some of the stuff in social movements, and I thought it was really cool. Flooring just to kind of to meet the guy one-on-one, and for him to give up his time like that. So that was just kind of a little kind of deep archive give for everybody. And so if you did check it out, I hope you enjoyed it. There you have it. So anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
This just came in.
Okay.
Across the Twitter feeds, the interwebs. Michael Flynn is prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians.
No shit. So he was cooperating. That's why he got the light sentence.
There's this website called Axios that aggregates a lot of things.
Yep.
ABC News, Flynn prepared to testify against Trump. Michael Flynn, who pled guilty today to lying to the FBI, has reportedly promised full cooperation with Special Counsel Robert Mueller team per ABC. Flynn is also reportedly prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed Flynn to make contact with the Russians.
Wow. That's big. That is pretty big.
Yeah.
So, I think that is going to throw a big section of the conspiratorial left into a tailspin. The people who have been saying that there's nothing to see here, that's something. This is on Axios?
Yeah, every place is just going nuts with this right now.
I bet they are. All right, well, I'm going to go check that out. Happy Friday, folks.
At least it ends in a glimmer of hope.
Oh, there's no hope with that, Sean. It's just more chaos and disaster. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, or let's put it this way. We're one step closer to President Pence. Crazy.
Which is what the end game of this was all along.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That's why.
I mean, like I was saying from the beginning, Pence is Trump's counter-revolutionary.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once Trump was the nominee, I mean, that once it was kind of clear that's where it was going. I mean, the whole idea was to get somebody in there. Was once they get rid of him, and I think, frankly, if they can't get this tax bill passed right now, they'll go after Trump, right? Because then they'll say, like, okay, actually, Trump is a liability to getting this tax passed, so we're going to put Pence in there. And guess what's going to happen? Joe Manchin is going to jump ship, and he's going to go end up voting with the Republicans. And then you're also going to have, maybe 2 or 3 other Democrats too as well will peel off and vote with Republicans and pass it. I'd like to say it'd be otherwise, but I bet you that's what'll happen because, Pence is far more. I would have Pence over for dinner sometime because he's such a pleasant individual. So
my buddy Mike Pence, Chuck Schumer would say.
Jesus Christ. So anyways, there we have it, folks. Another week, and it's almost Friday. Oh, it is Friday, so you know what that means. The world's exploding again! This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back once again next week with the fallout of the Flynn situation, whatever comes of that, and we'll see if we still got a country left after this tax bill goes through. Kevin Mahoney, we're out of here. See ya!
And my challenge right now to my Republican colleagues is I ask you, come down to the floor of the Senate and tell me that I am wrong.